Hey guys, I'm Jeremy Burrs, the Director of Range, Training, and Law Enforcement here at D5 Ranges Marengo. It's my favorite time. It's torture test time. Today we're going to be putting Vortex's newest optic, the Defender CCW, through the ringer to see just how far we can push this thing. The Vortex Defender CCW is a new optic that was engineered for both strength and durability. It's currently available in a 3 and 6 MOA dot, but it is only available in red right now. It features Vortex's shock shield, which is a poly shock absorber for it. It has the fast rack texturing up on the front, a top mounted battery tray, and 8 brightness settings, and the lowest 2 settings are for night vision. It's waterproof, shockproof, and fog-proof. And it has a 9,500 hour battery life to it and utilizes the RMS-C footprint. So the first thing that we're gonna get in our box is, well, of course the optic, that would make sense, right? A pick rail that will allow you to mount this to, let's say, a rifle system at 45 degrees as kind of your backup. It does come with a rubber dust cover. It does come with instructions, not that anybody actually reads those. Really nice cleaning cloth. As we dig a little bit further into here, we've got the tool that you would use to set the optic and mount the optic on there, and to adjust your windage and elevation, and to swap out your battery. It comes with 6 different sets of screws, and the cool part is they give you 2 pairs of each of those screws already with blue Loctite on it, which is something that you don't see a lot with a lot of optics. So no longer are you gonna have to hunt around to find that perfect screw, because your optic only came with 1 or 2 different pairs. You're gonna get your battery and then a 1-degree shim plate for it. All right, so this thing is supposed to be rugged and durable enough to withstand all the abuse that you would throw at it while carrying and training. Let's have a little fun and find out if it lives up to these claims. So let's go take a look at our instruments of torture. The first thing that we're gonna do is use this 2x4. We're gonna rack the firearm off the 2x4, and we're also gonna bludgeon the optic with it. We've got the gravel. Basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna pick the optic and firearm up to a little bit over waist height and just continually drop it into that gravel to see what it does. We've got our steel drum and barrel, and basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna rack it right off the solid metal rim. We've got the cinder block. We are going to rack it off that cinder block numerous times. And then last but not least, we are going to drop it into a bucket of water and leave it in there to see if that water penetrates. All right, so let's take out the victim. Let's make sure that it's clear, and it is clear. Let's start beating my gun up. All right, here we go. Let's start off with the 2x4. First thing we're gonna do with the 2x4 is we're gonna rack it off this 2x4 numerous times just to see what happens. Oh, this is cringy. All right, so looks like the dot is sitting in a good position. Didn't harm that front texturing in any way, shape, or form, but the texturing definitely harmed the 2x4. So I think we're off to a good start of beating this thing up. All right, next I think what we're gonna do is the bludgeon test. We're just gonna bludgeon test the 2x4 since we got it out, and we're just gonna repeatedly smack the heck out of the optic with the 2x4. All right, you ready? All right, doesn't seem to be any damage in it whatsoever. The dot is very nicely focused. Everything looks great so far. All right, now that we did all of that to this optic with the wood, we're just gonna go ahead and load a round in and confirm 0 to make sure that it's still where it needs to be. All right, still good. So the next test that we're gonna do is we're gonna rack it off some steel. So we're gonna use this steel drum with this steel reinforced lock ring around it. All right, here we go. All right. Well, we took some paint off that front knurling there, and my slide dot is still nice and bright and seems positioned where it needs to be. So let's go ahead and put a round in it and see if it's still where it needs to be. All right, still held 0, perfect. Well, let's get at it some more. All right, so for our next test, we are going to rack it off this cinder block. You know, this pains me a lot. This is my personal gun with a brand new optic on it. Here we go. We're actually chipping the cinder block. Wow, really no worse for the wear. No additional coating has worn off it. I mean, we kicked the cinder block's butt, so dot looks good. There's no cracks or anything like that. So let's shoot and reconfirm that it's on 0 here. All right, let's shoot around, confirm 0. All right, still right where it needs to be, and that's taken a lot. All right, sweet. Let's go farther. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is just kind of hold this a little bit above waist height, and we're gonna drop it numerous times into this bucket full of gravel. Oh, did you hear that one? Oh. This is painful. All right. So we dropped it numerous times in the gravel, made a lot of just sounds you don't want your gun to make, thuds and bumps. And then we proceeded to coat it completely in limestone from literally almost breaking some of the rocks. So it definitely hurt my gun and my optic. So let's take a couple shots or take a shot and see what it does. Still right where it needs to be. It hasn't skipped a beat yet, so on to the next thing, right? All right, so I think before we move on to the next test where we're gonna put it into the water, we figured it's kind of no better torture than to drop it at about waist height on the concrete floor that we have right here. So let's just put it at about waist height and give it a good drop on the floor. What do you guys think? All right, let's do it. Do you guys have any final words for not only the optic, but my everyday carry gun? Well, we're doing this for you. So here we go. All right, brother. 3, 2, 1. Yep. Oh yeah, that hit. All right, so we dropped it clear on its head, straight onto the concrete. I mean, the dot seems exactly where it is. The brightness, there's no cracks, no nothing. I mean, it took a couple chips out of just the coating, the paint. So let's throw a round in it and see if it's still on 0. Yeah. Hasn't skipped a beat. All right, sweet. So far it's it's been right on, right exactly what we want it to be, so awesome. Let's, we dirtied it up, so let's clean it off. All right, so our last test after we just bludgeoned it is we're just gonna drop it into a bucket of water. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna disassemble my firearm and just drop the slide in there. And then we're gonna let it sit in there for a little while and see if maybe through all the other torturing that we did, maybe it created some gaps or vulnerabilities in here that will allow water to come in there. Because remember, it is waterproof, so let's see if maybe we opened up something in here through all that force and see if we can get it to fail in the water. So here we go. All right, so we've had this sitting in this water for about the better part of 15 minutes or so. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the gun back together again, shake it off a little bit, and then shoot it and see if it wound up holding true or if it's even still alive at this point, because that optic could be dead because of the water. So let's put it together, see if we got a dot, and then confirm that we're still on 0. Well, at least it's clean now. All right. And we still have a dot. We don't have any bloom or anything like that on it, so it's ready to shoot. Let's see how wet I get trying to shoot this thing and see if it's on 0. All right, let's let it rip. All right, yeah, definitely held 0. All the shots are still in a pretty tight group, so it hasn't. We haven't phased this thing at all. In fact, we've probably done just as much damage to the slide of the gun as we have the optic, and the optic is still working perfectly. All right, so what I liked about the Vortex Defender, it has that really big picture window, especially for a micro red dot or of a dotted size. That fast rack texturing on the front does give it good grit to kind of rack off of. The top battery tray, there's no need to remove the optic and re-zero after every time you have to do a battery change. The big buttons for brightness control and the fact that they're on opposing sides of the optic itself. The added pick rail to try to mount that to your rifle at that 45 degree is a great thing just to throw in. The rubber cover, and one that actually stays on, and you know that struggle, SIG optic people, because it's always falling off on yours, right? And then hardware. Finally, someone included a huge variety of screws and clearly labels those screws, right? And then last but not least, Vortex's famous limited warranty. That one's a pretty tough one to beat. And of course, the fact that we just torture tested the heck out of this thing and it kept going and it was 0 every single time and had absolutely no issues. In fact, we kind of did more damage to the objects that we're racking off of than we actually did that optic. So let's talk about a couple of things that I didn't like about the Defender. And again, I'm being a little nitpicky here. It is a bit bulky, and I guess that's kind of the trade-off for having such a large picture window on there, is that it did add a little bit of bulk and kind of came over the edges of my slide. And the battery life, it's a bit poor with only 9,500 hours when compared to some optics that are 50,000 hours as some of his competition has. And the 14 hours before it shuts off. Why? You'd probably gain a much better battery life if it had like 1 or 2 hours, and then it wakes up every time you move it anyways. So I think we could probably get better battery life than 9,500 hours if you shut it down or it shuts itself down before 14 hours. And then the refresh rate of the dot itself. Sometimes when you're moving very quickly with it, you can kind of see the dot skip around just a little bit, and that's because of that refresh rate on the dot. But again, I'm being extremely nitpicky on this optic. All right, so what is kind of my final thought on this? There is obviously far more pros to this optic than there was cons. Like I said, I was being really picky about the cons. After seeing what we did to this optic and the fact that it didn't skip a beat, not a single solitary beat. And that's far worse than you're gonna subject that optic to. So I guess realistically, would I recommend it? Heck yeah, I'd recommend it. In fact, there's a good chance that there's gonna be one that's gonna go onto this gun. Not that one, of course, but a new one going onto that gun. So yeah, absolutely, I would recommend this optic. All right, thanks for joining us on this video. It was both fun and, well, kind of hurtful to both my gun and that optic, right? If you learned something from it, hit that like button and share it with someone else who might like it. Also, don't forget to pull the trigger on that subscribe button and make sure that you hit that little bell to get notified when we drop some more awesome content. Hit us up on d5rangesmarengo.com and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next time.